We're ready to get into the first ever casted Stormgate show match here with TLO versus Mana.
All right, here we go. In the very top right here, playing the Infernals, we have none other than Liquid Mana.
And down in the bottom left, over here playing Vanguard, it is TLO.
So the first map that we're going to be in here is Secluded Grove, a pretty popular map right now in Stormgate. I think one of the main things that you're looking at for this map is the fact that the center, well, that is the Secluded Grove, right? It's surrounded by trees. We have a ton of resources in there, and it definitely could be a point of contention for the two players.
And so we immediately see that it's going to be Mana going with a fast expand here, expand build here, and the same is true for TLO. Now, you do start out with a scout with Vanguard. This is that small dog running around, so they'll get to confirm that this is going to be a macro game from both players. Nobody going for a rush or any kind of cheese. Instead, we're going to be trying to develop and go into mid-game and possibly late game.
Yeah, and what you see right here, that's the scout from TLO. That's a very fast unit that you start with. It's a pupper, it's really cute, and you use it to scout the map. Mana, in the meantime, he went for that Iron Vault early on, and that allowed him to go ahead and make a Brute and split that into a couple Fiends, which are super fast attacking units that don't last for a long time.
That's right. They turn into Fiends, which are basically like a really powerful Brutaling. So if you do opt to go for that, you can then take that scout out. And now we're seeing some great harass over here from Mana. We've got the Bobs, which are very similar to SCVs or Peasants here. Using that overcharge, that makes the Bobs a lot stronger for a temporary period of time. That's going to force that Fiend to back off and go from harassing into scouting into the main.
And really, he's done a very good job so far. You know, even killing a single Bob here is going to be very nice. Going to go over and continue to harass a little bit here. He has taken a lot of damage, so obviously that Fiend isn't going to last a lot longer. One thing about Fiends is if they are not on that Dark Shroud that Infernals have, they do run out of health over time.
That's right. It looks like the fast expand is set up over here for Mana. We've got two more Brutes made. Those are the units over there on the left that we were talking about. Those can be fractioned into two, which make the two Fiends that come out on the map. Obviously, the Brute, very strong, a lot slower. But for now, they're just going to be a little bit of moving out, cracking open this Therium Mine over here so that we can get some Therium Mine at that second base.
That's right. You know, this is the other resource, and it's really important to kind of balance your resources. I feel like that's one of the harder things about Stormgate right now that everyone's still working on. Like, where do we want our workers to go? You know, like, exactly how much do we want to mine between the Luminite and the Therium in the early game?
And so immediately we're going to have the first creep camp taken out over here for Mana. This is a vision camp, so once you've killed that creep like that, you do get a little bit of income as well. But this is going to give you vision for the time being, which is going to be a lot nicer to make sure that you can't get counterattacked or blindsided here from the center of the map. As we're going to see these Brutes continue to grow out on the map and start to take out more creeps and scout.
In the meantime, we have a Lancer over here for TLO. You know, it's hard to really put that next to another unit, maybe like a Zealot or something, but a little bit stronger. And that is going to be a melee unit he's going to try to utilize defensively. But already, 3 Brutes coming in for some harassment. And look at that, a great surround by TLO. And of course, you can split those Brutes out into those Fiends if you do get in trouble.
So he does actually surround that first Brood. We've got a Hedgehog out here. This is that small car you can see firing just in the back. Now, this reminds me a lot of the StarCraft 1 Vulture, but in some ways maybe even a little bit more powerful and just fighting the general units that you see coming here from Mana. And so he's able to kite that pretty effectively.
Yeah, it's a very, very fast unit. It has to load up missiles, so it shoots quickly at first and then slows down and has to reload. But you see right now, this is a problem. The Mech Bay taking a lot of damage there. He's got to make sure he doesn't lose that, but Mana takes it down.
And he decides to then go for damage and starts to bait off those Bobs. Let's not forget that the overcharge was used up there. That's almost like a resource of its own. Once you can bait that out, then you know you're going to have a nicer attack later on. It looks like the Hedgehog is just barely repaired enough to survive that.
Really great repair, but does end up losing one as well. The remaining Fiend going to try to get out of there. But, you know, I feel like the big victory for Mana here was killing off that Mech Bay, which is where you make your Hedgehogs.
That's right. that's really going to stifle the development there for TLO. It does seem like a lot of the top players, at least the current meta right now, and again, this game is still it's fresh out of the oven, and we're still developing the meta, but a lot of players like to go for hedgehogs and try to do map control, and sometimes even take a third base. So we see those 2 hedgehogs out on the map now. TLO gets the confirm. Mana has not taken a third in that location just yet. And he can start to try to take out workers that would be coming out here to try to develop an economy.
Yeah, that Imp was going somewhere probably to expand. He's going to have to pull that back for the time being. Now, the Hedgehogs, they are super fast. This is like the fastest unit in the game. So you can see they do a really great job of just kind of kiting everything away, dealing that damage, getting out. In the meantime, it looks like, yeah, Mana is trying to kind of gain control of some of this map. These are meat farms. These provide supply, and you can see little units that pop out, these Fellhawks. You can't control those, but those will help you to defend.
Yeah, and they'll generate up to 3 of them. So if you keep that up for a little while, it's too much of a nuisance to commit into that area. And it's interesting to see that he sets those farms up in basically a big intersection here on the map. So you can see that Mount is continuing to push out and develop.
Now, a little bit of harassment comes in here. Once again, those very fast Fiends come in. The Lancers having a hard time catching them, but of course the Hedgehog can go up and clear these out pretty quickly.
Yeah, one thing about Brutes is when you turn them into Fiends, you're really committing, especially when you're on the other side of the map. So the amount of damage that's coming out is pretty scary, but as long as you're able to hang on, you will outlast them.
Now, both sides look to have 3 bases up in mining. So that's a pretty quick build into economy here. We're going to see a lot of macros starting to come up from both sides. And it does look as those conclaves are being added. Mana is going to be going towards Gaunts, which is a ranged unit here for the Infernals, which has a really interesting upgrade that lets it infest units that you're attacking.
And when a unit is infested and then killed, it then spawns 2 more Fiends. So you can get to a situation where you can snowball a fight pretty quickly.
That is exactly it. And of course, when you get masses and masses of smaller units, these quicker units, not going to do as well. Like, you can kite a little bit, but it's going to be really time intensive. And you can see right now, he's trying to utilize these Hedgehogs. He's actually trying to clear this creep camp that did come back online and take that over from Mana. But it looks like Mana should be able to hold on and take out half of it himself.
Okay, so the Magmadon comes through there. That unit, it's the quadruped there, it has a dive function that can basically stun for half a second. So if you can get a couple Magmadons and get a series of stuns, you can chain that together into a big kill like we're seeing being attempted here by Mana.
Yeah, Mana's really switching up the way that he's doing this. You can see the Hedgehogs, they're still trying to harass. That was actually a very nice, very quick heal there on the Magmadon, so it does stay alive, but it's taken a lot of damage here as well. Really annoying harassment here by TLO. I think he's doing a good job keeping some pressure on Mana.
Yeah, the problem for TLO right now, as far as I can tell at least, is that the Hedgehogs, while they're a threat and they can always run away, causing damage to accumulate over time, Mana seems to have a beefier army where if he actually takes a fight, oh my god, bad move there by TLO. He tried to retreat back, but went through the army line there of Mana, and Mana's going to continue to press forward.
Yeah, you can see those Magmadons with their quick stuns doing a great job of helping him to pick some of those off. And as he goes in for the attack, you can see quite a few Lancers being added in here as well from TLO. So those Lancers going to get in here, and they're doing a good job of tanking, but yeah, he comes up, and let's see if he can break through this third base.
Okay, we've got the Bobs over here with the overcharge. It looks like that's going to force Mana back for a little bit. And there's a lot of units falling over here for Mana. He lost about maybe a fourth of his army over there. Now, whenever you force out the overcharge, you know that once it's done, there may be another opportunity to try to come back in here. So why not leverage this situation, take out this vision camp, and maybe dive back in again if he thinks he has enough.
And that's really TLO's vision camp, so that's letting him see the positioning of this army. Now he comes in once again, those Gaunts are ready, and they are starting to infest a lot of these units. So if he actually starts to take this battle, we're gonna see a lot of Fiends pop out, and there they are. The Fiends start to come out of everything, and some damage being dealt here to TLO.
Yeah, the static defense does fall. I see about 5 Hedgehogs here continuing to try to fight. The Bobs are gonna be pulled, but there's no overcharge on them this time.
Yeah, nice little charge in there from the Magmadon, but it will get surrounded. It will get picked off. The Fiends still coming up here and causing some trouble. Finally, a Vulcan hits the field. This is going to be a key unit for TLO as this match goes further. Those Vulcans, they're a little bit slow, but they are fantastic at area effect damage.
Yeah, and they've got a dive function that allows them to plow through trees. When they are doing damage in certain areas, you really need to get out of there, or everything's going to melt. I'm speaking from first-hand experience here. Now, it looks like TLO defends that, but how much of the map does Mana actually have? Sometimes it could be misleading when you see a fight lost on one side of the map, only to realize that Mana's actually grown pretty effectively here. It looks like he has a base just to the south of the screenshot here. If we could check that. Yeah, so he's in pretty good shape, slightly oversaturated. 12 imps is the max you want to have mining there for now. It looks like he has one extra. And he's going to be, he just now takes a 4th base over here. So, again, this game's very new. We don't know exactly how much each faction is supposed to have an even fight. But Mana is up in 1 base.
And in fact, he has taken the center, and he's starting to make a lot of defensive structures there. This is why it's called Secluded Grove, right? This center place, it's a double base. So super, super powerful to have. That's something that TLO is going to have to deal with, or Mana's just going to run him over.
Yeah, and the issue right now is it seems that Mana can basically go for control play. He can roam the map and gobble up all the other resource locations, and while TLO might not be able to be killed here, he certainly can't go out on the map and try to stop the growth that Mana's getting.
Now, Mana coming in, he has a lot of Magmadons here. You can see those great stuns going out, but with enough Vulcans, it looks like TLO's getting pretty cost-efficient here. He pulls his Bobs forward and is trying to overwhelm, but we will see Mana turn around.
And, you know, with the Bobs already going back home here, it looks like TLO's going to push it a little bit further. Now, there's a lot of Vulcans here. So we got to see how well TLO can control this situation. The kiting for Mana looking pretty good. It looks like he's going to come in from the side now.
And don't forget, these Vulcans can plow through those trees, so that might be something we end up seeing. Pushes forward towards the Shroud Stone. That is kind of like a cannon that helps to defend quite a bit. And it looks like Mana's starting to take a very good fight here. You've got to be careful. You see a ton of imps spawning right now as he infests the units of TLO.
Beautifully done. TLO going to have to retreat and go back. Now, with those imps, normally you would have to hyper commit to them, but the fact that there's Shrouds so close by, you can always go back there and regen. Keep in mind that any of these Infernal units that are on the Shroud, they gain what we call white health. It's like an additional health bar that you can see at the top. Whenever they're not on the Shroud, that bar diminishes, but when you occupy the Shroud, it builds back up, which gives you a pretty strong buff, especially when you have Shroud in close proximity to your opponent's base.
Yeah, absolutely. Now you see there is some static D here for TLO, and he's going to try to be able to hold on to this 3rd base. It's a really strong attack coming in from Mana. A ton of Gaunts up here in the front. And oh man, how did that even happen? We have a ton of Fiends going to the natural expansion as well. This is bad news for TLO.
Yeah, it's not clear that TLO could even hold this position over here at his 3rd, but already losing so many workers at his 2nd base here. It does appear that TLO is going to drive him back, but the damage has been done, Artosis.
Yeah, this is starting to look very, very bad for TLO.
GG.
He calls, GG comes out. And that means that Mana is going to go ahead and win that 1st game. Really, really well played. One thing we should mention about these 2 legends of StarCraft 2, Mana right now is ranked within the top 10 players on the ladder in the closed beta.
That's right. He's been very active. He seems to be in very good shape. I think TLO did a good job back there. It was impressive to see that surround on the initial Brute and the shutdown of the Fiends. But at the end of the day, there was not a whole lot that TLO could do with his Hedgehogs to deny the growth, especially going to the south and then, of course, into the center, which is the primary feature of that map. Getting those bases, having that proximity, able to hammer over and over and over again at TLO's 3rd, and then, of course, closing it out by having those Fiends come in and wipe out the workers. I think it was at the main or the natural?
At the natural expansion, yeah. I think Mana did a great job of really growing his economy, getting a giant army there, some very important moves. And TLO, I feel like in the early game, he was maybe outplaying Mana a little bit, but maybe his Vulcans were a little bit slow there. He really needs those to help to push back those Gaunts, to push back those Fiends. Fiends. And we didn't ever end up seeing anything like a med tech, which I'm hoping to see in this next round to help add some sustain to the army of TLO.
Yeah, well, you know, we could go back in that game and look at, you know, shutting down the production facility for the first Hedgehog there. Did slow down TLO quite a bit, and I think that actually rippled through the rest of game one. He didn't seem to have anywhere near as much control.
That's very true. That's a really good point.
It seems like Vanguard really wants to leverage Hedgehogs to then get their own map control and tech behind it. But we're going to be going into game two in a second here. Now, all these maps are very different, and we'll see if there's a different idea or strategy employed here from TLO, and maybe we can be fortunate enough to have this tied up 1-1 here.
Yeah, I'm hoping for it. It looks like we're just about ready to get into that next game. Let's see what map we're on. It's not going to be Secluded Grove.
Yeah, I believe this is Jagged Maw.
Yeah.
So this is an interesting map. Let's talk about the map before we really even get into the players or the strategies here. So this map, I believe inspired by Scrap Station from StarCraft 2. Both players spawn at the right, but they're not close to each other by ground. You basically have to move in this big horseshoe shape through the, you know, your side of the map all the way around to theirs. There are these siege camps that you can hit. So, like we saw the vision camps that were hit earlier.
Yeah, the red ones there, you can see a siege camp on either side.
Yep.
And if you go ahead and creep these camps, it basically unlocks a catapult, which is going to move towards your opponent. You can't control it. You can mess with its AI a little bit, slow it down, things like that. But it will go for a push. So that's a camp that you're really going to want to time out.
Yeah, and if they have a stronger army than you, you basically get like it's like a siege tank push, effectively. But this tank is mobile and continuing to move on, and you can be overpowered in that position. So a very cool function. It does remind me a little bit of like when you kill a camp in Heroes of the Storm and suddenly these units spawn out and push the other side's opponent's side of the map. In this game, it does appear that once more we're going to have fast expand plays from both players.
Yeah, that's pretty standard right now within Stormgate. This is kind of funny to see, actually. This is great micro from TLO. He's using his scout to try to maybe steal that creep kill, put some damage onto the Brute, and that allowed the Brute to take a lot more damage from the creep as well. So very nicely done, and he does decide that is a choice you can make in the game, is to split that Brute into a couple Fiends and chase away the scout of your opponent.
Yeah, the scout, a bit of a nuisance if you've ever played against it in a game of Stormgate. You definitely want to try to get rid of that. And so, you know, with that, there will be no more vision over here on this side of the map for the time being. I don't know if there's going to be any kind of surprising tech here from Mana. It seems like Mana has a pretty good understanding of how to develop in a safe way and do more of a control play.
Yeah, it does look like he's going for 3 Iron Volts at the moment. Again, this makes the Brutes, this makes the Magmadons later on when you unlock them. So we should be seeing that same type of pressure that killed the Mech Bay for TLO earlier on. But don't forget, because of the way that Jagged Maw is shaped, that travel distance is going to be a little bit longer to get to your opponent.
That's right. We've got the Lancer out now, and this is just some scouting over here from Mana with those Fiends here. He'll try to hiccup any bobs he can, whether it's going to be for the Luminite or the Theorem here. Just anything to buy a little bit of time. As we all know, in an RTS game, just slowing things down by a few seconds can start to really stack up over time.
Yeah, and both the Fiends end up going down there. Almost gets a Bob, but TLO does end up defending that a little bit better. It feels like TLO just with a slightly stronger opener this game. I do want to see, though, if he can get that Hedgehog production up high enough to maybe deal a little bit more damage in that early mid-game than what we saw in the previous map.
It would seem to me, I could be wrong, but with Mana going it looks like he'd go for a push pretty early on over here. I think he's going to have a lot of muscle to come out on the map. Now, obviously, you know, Hedgehogs can kite pretty effectively, but I wonder what kind of interaction that would create with the catapult.
Yeah, that's a very good question. Now, some Fiends have been split off and sent up here. They go ahead and try to surround that Lancer, but a very quick overcharge on these Bobs going to help out. The Fiends going to pull back. Again, don't forget, they're losing health over time when they're not on Shroud. So they're not going to last forever, and TLO needs to try to outlast them here.
Yeah, nice kill on that Bob. Going to do whatever damage he can. Obviously, the half-life on these Fiends isn't going to last for that long. And so he's just trying to do anything he can to scout, to slow down development, anything like that. Even going to go for this resource camp. Can he get the kill over here? No, not enough HP on those.
Yeah, it doesn't look like. In fact, that'll soften it up. TLO is going to be able to come over and take that resource camp, immediately get a little bit of extra Luminite there.
Okay, we've got Brute development really kicking in now. Are we going to have an attempt on this siege camp? It looks like he's forked the Brutes off. He's got 3 down here towards the northern middle, which he turns into Fiends right when they get over there. There's 2 more Brutes pushing over here on the left side of the map, and it looks like they're going to go for the vision camp. We see the Hedgehog, I believe, got vision of that and spotted that.
Yeah, it definitely did end up seeing that. He is going to pull it away. That would take a long time to try to kill 2 Brutes with 1 Hedgehog. In the meantime, utilizing those smaller trees that smaller infantry units can run through with the Fiends, trying to get up here quickly. And you can see, once again, just a small group of Fiends coming in. You know, these probably remind you, if you're a StarCraft player, of like Zerglings, for instance, and just being a nuisance. It's not like something that's going to end the game, but look, he's, you know, killing a Bob here, killing a Lancer there, and they're not that expensive for mana.
No, not at all. And he could basically, oh, I love this. So the Fiends come in there, but then that allows these Brutes to come down. Now he does get a surround on that first Brute, and was not able to force those into Fiends, so a little bit of a control error there from Mana. In a perfect play, from Mana's perspective, you would let that Brute take as much damage as possible and then split it at the last second.
Yeah.
Just to be clear for everybody watching, you have to manually do that, the Fiend split.
That's right. And these 2 Fiends are going to try to get away. They're just so fast, so even the Hedgehog's having a hard time getting over there. Of course, coming over here and going to destroy that vision camp. But right now, we have Hedgehogs out, but you know, maybe TLO isn't going to push as heavily with these. Maybe he's deciding instead to go more quickly into that higher tech, get things like the Vulcans out.
I think you're probably right, Artosis. I mean, just having a couple of those Hedgehogs out can create the illusion of that situation, mirroring what we saw there in Game 1. But you're right, he's changing his tech pretty quickly behind this.
Yeah, it
We're
looks
having
like
a lot of barracks is thrown down here, in fact.
Yeah, BioConnect's lab as well, and no big surprise right there, because he does want to get those Lancers out. And the Lancers definitely have some very strong upgrade, where whenever they're getting hit, they get a 5% speed bonus. And I mean, that just allows you to really move them around very quickly and close with the enemy in a fight.
Another scout moving over here, this time on the right side of the map. It's been a much more quiet game than the last one. We've had a couple of harassment plays over here from Mana getting in there, getting a Bob here or there. But TLO's defense has been pretty solid, and TLO teching in such a different direction should deliver us into a very different looking mid-game here.
Well, right now, it looks like this camp going to be taken down. This is one of those siege camps we were talking about before. So he's going to try to do a push, but it looks like TLO is going for a counterattack right now. So if TLO is on the other side of the map attacking Mana, he can't really push with the catapult.
Yeah, it's basically you know, a punish here. TLO realizing that Mana is committed to that siege camp. Now he can come down here and actually do this counter that's already done some damage. He's now making progress up here into denying mining resources. These imps on the run right now.
Wow, this really feels like a very good attack here from TLO. Again, not as many Hedgehogs as we saw previously, but he's doing a great job with those Lancers, putting some pressure on. And here comes the catapult.
So the catapult, just to remind everybody, you can't control it. It's just going to path its way down into the base. The way these bases are set up, they're lining the bottom. If it sees a unit, it will fire. It's not mindless. It's not just going to go and try to hit structures. But this puts a position now where TLO has to address this. Does he try to snipe the catapult? What does he do? He comes in, and the Magmadons go for a very nice stun. The catapult damage connects.
Yeah, and he's actually having some great micro. As you can see, you can dodge these catapult shots. So really well done from TLO. Oh, but the Magmadon just slides in there with the stun. A little bit of a problem. The catapult gets a great hit on all those Lancers to the right, and TLO feels like he has to retreat.
Yeah, TLO realizing he's got to go back and lick his wounds here. He's going to have more reinforcements come up. Now, the further the catapult gets down and closer to TLO's base, the farther away the reinforcements are from Mana. So there's a chance that he's going to get deep in enough here that there's a way to recover. Oh, but look at what he's got here.
Yeah, Spriggans coming out right now. These are air units, and they just do attacks towards the ground. And because nothing shoots up for TLO, he's in a bit of trouble. They're adding a ton of damage right now. There's a huge amount of Lancers, and he's going to go ahead and try his best to push back through all this, but he needs some anti-air for those Spriggans as well.
He's doing some damage, but that catapult's still here. These shots really accumulating over onto the Lancers as Spriggans continuing to come forward. The catapult's pretty low. He goes in here for a surround. Looks like the Magmadon about to fall, as is the catapult.
Yeah, he takes that all down, does end up losing his structure, but now you see he is making some exos here as well. You can see with the guns, a pretty solid unit overall. He also has those med techs there that are going to help to heal everything. So instead of some of the unit sets that we saw in that first game, it feels like TLO this game is going for more of a bio composition. Like you can almost think of it like a Marine medic Zealot, right?
Sure.
We have the med techs for the healing. They also deal a little bit of damage. We have the exos as that ranged attack, as that anti-air, and of course the Lancers as the front line.
I really like the idea of having the Spriggans merge in with the push. I was just talking about how it's going to be hard to get Brutes all the way down there to meet up with this push, but the Spriggans come in there very nicely. Now, with anti-air available, the Spriggans have to be careful not to overextend.
Yeah, air units are almost always much weaker than their ground counterparts, right? You're trying to use them for their mobility, but here against the main push, it might be a little bit harder. But when I say that, look at the size of the army right now from Mana. He's done a great job with his macro this game.
Yeah, it's not clear to me who's actually got the better army. We got the Magmadon coming in there with that initial stun. TLO beginning to kite back over here. And it looks like he might even be able to wrap around with these Brutes. There's one Lancer over here to kind of draw the attention from some of these melee units away. TLO begins to get a stronger fight and now pushing north.
Man, that is a lot of exos right now. The Lancers doing such a good job tanking in the front. Of course, as those med techs get up, they can continually heal them as well and keep that front line going. But, oh man, a huge amount of Fiends being spawned out of those Brutes. They're going to push forward immediately.
And I don't know that there's any way for TLO to get out of here. He's going to micro back. It looks like there's maybe a narrow path back there, but as the Magmadon comes in here with the stun, the damage continues to pile up.
Just a fantastic slide there from the Magmadon. That charge really dealing a ton of damage. And even though TLO finds probably the best position to make a favorable trade there, there's just too many Infernals on the field.
This is becoming a really crazy game, Artosis. A real back and forth over here. We're seeing both players. They've pretty much filled up Mana fills up the entire top of the map, and TLO fills up the entire bottom. So, how long can this possibly go on for? There's only so many resources on the map available here. Something's got to give.
Yeah, and, are they going to just continually attack right now, or are they going to go towards those expansions on the other side? Now, that unit that you see going up and down, this is a Doombringer. It's basically like a transport. It can pick units up when it lands and then bring them elsewhere, but also when it lands, it makes Shroud, so that white health starts to regenerate. It's a really fantastic unit for support like this. You see him putting that down, regaining this white health so quickly, really buffing his army with these units.
Yeah, giving a really good foothold right here. For Mana, he's going to continue to try to come forward, and with the buffing on this, looks like the Magmadon gets shot down. TLO beginning to fight back. Was this an overextension here from Mana?
Yeah,
we've got Weavers now.
It might be. Oh my God, we even have a Weaver coming in, and it goes ahead and uses that Lash command. That is something that pulls units towards it so that you can kill them on your own Shroud. Dealing a lot of damage there as well. Tons of Fiends splitting off and going after these Exos. Does TLO actually have enough to hold on? I think he does.
I think he can barely hang on. The Fiends, again, they're going to try to pull back. Remember, they can get more white health by staying on top of the Shroud, so suddenly they have a very different type of sustain than they had before. But TLO has to do something to get rid of this. It looks like he's going to fork these Fiends off over here and try to do a counterattack similar to what we saw in Game 1, maybe going for the Bobs over at the second or the third base.
Well, he comes back. He is still trying to break through it here. A ton of Brutes have come down. You can see those Gaunts right now. They're trying to infest these units so he can get more Fiends as they end up dying. The Weaver adding a surprising amount of damage in here as well.
Okay, the damage beginning to really pile up here. If TLO can hold this and survive this attack, I don't know that he's going to be able to defend the bases that are behind this. This could be a 2-0.
Yeah, it really looks like it right now. That Magmadon charging in, doing a great job of pushing everything back. And now this area is becoming Mana's. He is starting to destroy these expansions. TLO needs to make a stand here. If he loses these bottom left bases, I don't think there's much chance of him winning this game.
That's right. The Bobs, they've been overcharged now here. They're going to try to defend. I just don't see a real opportunity here for TLO to overpower in this situation. We've got some more Lancers coming up. Mana now microing away, but so many workers have been dropped now. That's going to really stifle the amount of resources that can come in next.
Man, this is just a great attack. A great rallying coming in here from Mana as well. TLO continues to pump out units. He's trying to break through, but you can see The Fiend production here is amazing between infesting, the fact that you have these brutes that turn into Fiends as well. It's just a ton of units that you have to deal with.
Yeah, it's a lot. We've got the push continuing to come back over here as we're seeing everything fall apart. He's basically deep into the infrastructure right now for TLO. And with the infrastructure spread out like this, you start to lose those buildings. You can't produce as much. Sometimes units pop out, get isolated, and killed immediately.
Yeah, and you can see as he brings the Magmadons in as well, it's too much. GG is called.